I couldn't get a job coming out of law school.
Were your parents disappointed?
They weren't because I never told them. They only found out honestly when I got hired on The Daily Show.
What?
Someone told me like the best comics think that their material is bad. And there's something to that. I think there's a lot of trouble I got into. I'm trying to find the one that I can actually talk about in public.
I'm Rachel Martin, and this is Wildcard, the game where cards control the conversation. Each week, my guest chooses questions at random from a deck of cards. Pick a card 1 through 3. Questions about the memories, insights, and beliefs that have shaped them. My guest this week is comedian Ronny Chieng. When you've watched Ronny Chieng's comedy, it becomes pretty clear that this is a guy who takes none of his success for granted. What were the odds that a 20-something Chinese-Malaysian guy trying to launch a comedy career after law school in Australia was going to make it big in America? Whatever the odds were, Ronny Chieng beat them to become one of the biggest names in comedy right now. He's been a regular correspondent on The Daily Show since 2015 and is now a rotating host. He absolutely crushed his role as Jimmy O Yang's best friend in the Hulu show Interior Chinatown.
Hi, can I place an order to go, please?
We're closed.
And he's got his third Netflix comedy special out now called Love to Hate It. Ronny Chieng, welcome to Wildcard.
That might be the nicest, best written intro I've had for me.
Are you pulling my chain?
No, I'm not. It was very accurate. I appreciate it. Thanks so much.
You're very welcome. All right, round 1, memories. 1, 2, 3.
Okay, go 3.
When's the first time you really got in trouble?
I think there's a lot of trouble I got into. I'm trying to find the one that I can actually talk about in public. I'll go with there was what were we doing? My sister and I were in Manchester, New Hampshire. This was like 1989, and we were kids, and we were outside in the snow playing, and we would just slip and fall, and we would get up and we would be all red because it was cold, right? Like our cheeks were red, our hands got red, and my mom thought that we were all red because we hurt ourselves falling on the ice because we came from Malaysia and we didn't know how bodies reacted to cold. And so she yelled at us for like severely hurting ourselves in the snow. But we were like, no, we're not injured. This is just what happens when you touch something cold for too long. I think that was the first time we got in trouble with something.
But you didn't even do anything wrong.
Yeah, but that's a lot of Asian stuff is you get in trouble for not doing anything wrong. That's a lot of the stuff you get in trouble for as a Chinese kid is for like, we didn't even do anything.
She didn't punish you. She was just like stern.
She yelled at us, and then we were like trying to tell her that no, we're not hurt. This is what happens when you touch something that's too cold, you get a little red. And she like half didn't believe us, but it didn't escalate further. It was just one of those like, okay. we're being wronged here, but it's okay. It's not a big. I don't know.
You didn't get grounded.
No.
You didn't get grounded. You didn't. No.
Yeah.
No. Okay. Second question: 3 new cards. 1, 2, or 3.
2.
How do you consciously try to emulate your parents?
Oh. Wow, that is a good question. I don't think anything is that impressive. That's how I mimic them, because they're not easily impressed by much. And so, no, but in a good way, I think. They're not like susceptible
to I get it.
To showbiz, like, razzle dazzle. So I think in that way, I kind of like, I try to see reality the way they see it, where it's like, oh yeah, this is not that big a deal. That's not that big an achievement.
Did that ever cut the other way for you growing up? Like if you did a thing, you wanted them to be proud of you. Maybe you were trying for a certain reaction and they were like,
I don't know. I don't think I was that impressive a kid. I didn't have that many great achievements anyway, so I don't feel like they wronged me by not being impressed. So no, I don't. I feel I was like, you're right. It's not that impressive.
Do you find that people in your line of work are constantly, I don't know, I guess, seeking that kind of affirmation? I mean, do you do you find yourself falling into that trap?
My line of work being stand-up comedy, undoubtedly we seek affirmation through a crowd response to our jokes, right? Like that is we are looking for a good reaction to a joke, specifically laughter. So in that way, we are our integrity is compromised. But I also think that we don't necessarily seek affirmation from the business, or we don't believe our own marketing. I think most comics do. Someone told me the best comics think that their material is bad. And there's something to that, I think. I don't know any great comic who's like, oh, my material is the best in the world. You're always looking at other comics and going, man, that guy's really funny. I need to write a better bit. It's like never done. You never feel like you have the greatest joke in the world.
Yeah. Keeps you going.
Yeah.
Okay. 3 more in this round. 3 more cards. Last question.
3.
In memories. 1, 2, 3. Okay, you pick 3. What's something someone told you that changed your trajectory?
Just before I started doing comedy, I discovered that there was someone from my law school who graduated maybe 4 years before me. He graduated and went into stand-up comedy. I was considering doing it, so I emailed him, Yanis, and he didn't know who I was, and I never met him before, and I just asked him how did he go about starting doing stand-up comedy. And he wrote this very long, detailed email, telling me basically you have to go out, you have to get stage time. That email was kind of what got me thinking that not only was it possible, it got me thinking it was a very easy to follow. Okay, I just need to go get stage time.
He wrote you like a little manual.
Yes, he wrote me a manual on how to get started, which I really appreciated, because if you're an experienced comic, someone asking you how to get started is a very basic question that can actually come off as quite annoying. What do you mean how you get started? Just go do it. But this guy didn't have, that's what I would have said. But this guy was way more patient than me. And his kind of friendly email and him replying like that, even though he didn't know who I was, and him being from the same kind of background as me, in this law school, made me go like, oh, okay, he did it. This is the next step to do it. Let me go try it out. So I guess that kind of was one of the things that changed my trajectory.
This message comes from Squarespace. Start a fully custom on-brand website with Squarespace's latest AI-enhanced website builder, Blueprint AI. After a few questions, their interactive design system transforms basic information about your brand or business into an elevated online presence with curated premium quality content automatically added and matched to your profile and aesthetic. Head to squarespace.com/wildcard for 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. Round 1 is done. Before we start round 2, I want to talk a little bit about your creative life, and in particular your special. Congratulations, by the way.
Oh, thank you so much.
I definitely connected to the administrative tasks associated with death and the death of a parent.
Oh, right, right.
Your dad died a few years ago.
Yeah.
And my dad died 3 years ago.
Oh, I'm sorry to
and
hear that.
there is this, all of a sudden, you're like a hacker. And
Yeah.
you're trying to break into your boomer parents' email
Yes.
accounts.
Yes.
And it's like hilarious.
Yes, you're trying to
because
figure
you're
out their
thinking of-
digital lives that they barely figured out.
No, because they didn't know how to
No.
work the technology.
Right.
Anyway, so
Right.
it's like
And-
password 1,
Yeah.
password 2. You're just like guessing the most
Yeah.
obvious things.
Yeah. And then not to mention, in addition to grief, even if you take away that digital component, you're still dealing with the analog life is complicated.
Oh, yeah. There's so much stuff
Yeah. there's a
involved.
lot of stuff,
I mean,
yeah.
I was just at my parents' house going through all these photo albums, and we had to decide
Yeah.
which are the photo albums that we keep and
Yeah.
which ones are we like, I don't know. We've seen, I don't know. It sounds bad to throw away pictures, but there's so many.
It's tough,
and
yeah.
At some point, you got to be like, I guess we're not going to keep these. And that
Yeah.
feels sad.
Yeah, but the third option, you could
got-
digitalize it, right?
Oh my God, Ronnie, I'm never doing that.
Oh, you're never doing that?
Maybe I could pay someone.
Yeah, pay someone to
that just
do
sounds,
it. Just visualize it. Yeah, it's easy.
Yeah.
It's easy.
Yeah.
I get it.
Did you do that?
No, we didn't throw it away. We kept it all because it was we didn't have to get rid of my dad's place. So it's all there still. So I basically punted the problem. It's still an issue, but I gotta go. Yeah, like decluttering your parents' place is it's something they don't tell you about that you have to do one day.
One of the comics who saw your special kind of early on, I read this in some article, suggested to you that maybe you wanted to remove a section of your special right now. Like it starts with these very personal places and talk about your dad's death. And in the middle, there's this bit about MAGA and masculinity and YouTube and exercise bros.
Yeah.
And the connection between all those things.
Yeah.
And I read that one comic was like, I think you should leave that stuff out.
Clearly, I didn't listen to them. I just left it in. Yeah, I put it in, so.
Is there any part of you, I mean, does this political moment expand your comedic possibilities or contract them?
It's not really about the politics of now. I think for me, it's just what's a funny bit, I think when you think about it with the politics, it's almost like the tail is wagging the dog, or at the very least, that's not how I go into it looking at comedy. I'm just looking for the funny bit, If it happens to touch upon politics, so be it. If it happens to touch upon race, okay. As long as it's a funny bit. And so for me, I felt as I was describing a situation that I felt was very funny to me, and if it also felt very prevalent to me, like that idea of guys losing their minds on the internet. It felt very funny and also real to me. Like I've seen it happen, so I wanted to talk about it. I figured out this bit. I put it in. So the question for me wasn't, is it political or not? The question for me is it funny on stage, and then is it funny in the special?
We're moving on to round 2. 1, 2, or 3?
1.
1. What was a disappointing experience that now feels like a blessing?
I couldn't get a job coming out of law school. My grades were too bad, and I couldn't get hired. And everyone around me was getting jobs because I went to a very good law school. So everyone around me was like these very hyper competitive type A people who were getting really good jobs at these big law firms. And I felt a little left out at the time. But in hindsight, I'm like, oh man, I'm so glad I never got hired, because I think it would have been more difficult for me to quit a job and do comedy. As it was, I didn't have anything to lose, so I could just do comedy. It wasn't like I had to pick between comedy and a corporate job. I never had to make that decision because I never got hired.
Were your parents disappointed that didn't pan out for you?
No, they weren't, because I never told them.
What do you mean? How did that happen?
I just didn't tell them I was doing comedy. I just went to go do it. They thought I was studying for the bar exam, which I was, in fairness. And I just took a long time to do the bar exam. And in that time, I was just doing comedy while I was studying for the Australian bar, which I ended up passing. So I'm actually like called to the bar in Australia. But in that time, I was just doing comedy. And by the time they found out, it was almost like too late.
Wait, that's awesome.
Yeah,
so
that's
you
the
just
secret.
led this separate life, but you were, assuming you were in a good enough place that when they found out, they weren't traumatized. You're like, I'm a comedian and I can pay my rent.
Yeah.
So it's okay.
Yeah.
Is that where you were?
Yes. They only found out, honestly, when I got hired on The Daily Show.
What?
Yeah. I also didn't make a big deal about it. I wasn't like, I'm doing comedy now, because I didn't know if I was going to be able to do it. So I just kept doing it.
Did they know what The Daily Show was?
No, they didn't
Like
know.
when you called to tell them,
No,
I got this thing?
No, they didn't know.
No.
They didn't know what it was. They didn't know what it was, but they after I told them I got hired. They didn't know what it was. And then like a couple days later, they Googled it. They found out all about it. They were like, oh, this is an important show. This is a very famous show. And I'm like, yeah, I know. But they kind of trained me to be like, it's just an opportunity. It doesn't mean you're good. It just means you have a chance to do something cool, right? Like that's all it was. So that's what I took it for. And that's really what the strength of being on the Daily Show is. Like more so than fame or whatever, it's like this opportunity to work with extremely talented people and really become better yourself, because everyone at that show is so good at their jobs that you don't want to be the weakest link. And so you lift your game. That's why it's the best job in comedy. It just makes you a better writer, performer, comedian, satirist. That show is, it's like the Harvard Business School of comedy.
3 more. 1, 2, or 3?
3.
3. What's a quality you're drawn to but don't possess?
Wow, that's a really good question.
I know, I like this one.
Yeah. People who are always able to put out good energy. I think that's very invaluable, to always be able to give good energy to other people in the room. I aspire to that. Oftentimes I fail. Oftentimes I'm the
How
one
do you know?
just because I know I'm a grumpy dude. Sometimes I try not to bring the mood down, but sometimes I'm the guy who's just like, I don't have any enthusiasm for this birthday party. And I can't hide it. But I admire the people who are always giving out positive energy. So I think maybe I could be off base with this. I think guys and girls are a little different as well. I think girls want positivity from their friends all the time. I don't think guys need that. I don't think guys need...
No, dude. I'm calling you out on that.
Okay, I might be wrong, but...
No.
No, not that we don't appreciate it. No, we don't hate positivity. I'm just saying we don't need it like oxygen, Like, we don't need someone next to us just being like, yeah, we can do it. It's, like cheering for us.
Ronny Chieng!
Yeah, we don't...
No. No? Denied.
Okay.
No.
Well,
No, I don't want that. I'm a lady.
Okay.
And I don't want like a positive cheerleader next to me.
Okay, no, good. Okay.
I like a hard, cynical,
Okay, sure.
trash talking.
Okay. Yeah,
Lady.
I'm off base then. I'm off base with it. I was more asking the question than making a statement.
This message comes from Squarespace. Squarespace makes it easy to manage your payments all in one place with Squarespace Payments. Onboarding is fast and simple. Get started in just a few clicks and start receiving payments right away. Plus, give your customers more ways to pay with popular payment methods like Klarna, ACH Direct Debit, Apple Pay, and Afterpay. Head to squarespace.com/wildcard for 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. One, 2, or 3?
2.
How have your feelings about death changed over time?
Oh, yeah. It's become more real. The older you get, the more people you know who have died. So that's changed. It used to be this kind of, for me, it was this kind of conceptual abstract, right? And then it's become very real the last couple of years. Relatives and friends, unfortunately. So it becoming more real was kind of frightening. But I was studying Buddhism recently, and there was this very interesting concept that I'm going to butcher because I'm going to give you the cliff notes of it in like 5 seconds. But the idea was something like, we are a different person in every moment anyway. Our thoughts are different. Our cellular makeup is different in every second, every moment. So the concept of me doesn't really exist because I'm constantly changing anyway. And so when I die, it doesn't matter because I never really existed. And that is, so that is kind of like the Buddhist answer, I think. One of the Buddhist answers to that.
I like that idea. Does that mean that when a person dies, you think that it's just another transition, or are they gone?
I think that unfortunately, as a person observing someone dying, that person is gone. I'm just talking about me personally, for me to come to terms with my own mortality. That's how I view it anyway. That I never really existed. I'm different every moment. So if I go, that's just another change, right? That's how I deal with dealing with other people, that's tough. I think that requires a different concept.
Yeah. It's much easier to process you leaving than it is to process the loss of another person.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Last question, Ronny Chieng. 1, 2, or 3?
3.
What's a place you consider sacred?
Oh. Wow, so many places.
Yeah.
So many places. But just for ease, let's just say in bed. In bed. Don't disturb me. Unless you're my wife, you can disturb me.
Come on!
But what do you mean? It's the most sacred place you could be. No one else. Like, how many people are you gonna let into your bed? How many people are you gonna let into your bed? Also, when you're there, you're usually resting, if not outright unconscious and asleep. So, like, isn't that a sacred thing for yourself to be like, this is just for me and my wife? No one else come in. I'm not gonna let press into my bed.
Yeah.
So
no, I get it. I get it.
Yeah.
I should not have dismissed that answer.
Also, it's where you go to recharge, literally, right? You go to bed tired, you wake up hopefully not tired.
Yeah.
So it's energizing, clears your head, right? I think it's a sacred place.
But especially as you have admitted to being sort of a grump.
Yes.
And a person who you strike me as the kind of person who needs alone time.
Yes.
To be you, to be funny or whatever, to do your job, but just to live, you need to be alone.
Be alone, yeah. I think also, take it outside the context of a bed. I think stand-up comics spend a lot of time on the road, unfortunately, and we spend a lot of time on the road by ourselves. So, I don't know whether we develop that or that's a characteristic that, lends itself to stand-up comedy. But either way, I think comics are quite okay with being kind of loners, most of the time. It doesn't lead to healthy mental health, but I'm just saying that's something that you kind of get used to.
We end the show the same way every time. It's a trip in our memory time machine.
Oh, no.
Okay?
I tried very hard to lock that stuff away, but here we go.
We're going to go down there. I want you to pick one moment that you would go back to in your past that you would not change anything about. You would just linger there a little longer.
Oh, I can't. Pass on this. I kept one pass, right? Can I pass on this thing? It's just, this goes against my religion. I'm supposed to stay in the moment. Something I go back to, I don't know. How about the first time I came back from school and watched Sesame Street? Is that lame? I don't know what the...
It's your memory. It's not lame.
I'll go.
No, sure.
First time I came back from school.
How old were you?
I was 5 years old. My mom and my dad were there. My sister was there. I was watching Sesame Street. That was a nice moment.
Was it Big Bird? Was it Oscar? I need one more. I need one more detail.
It was definitely Big Bird. I'm pretty sure all the guys were there. Bern, Ernie, Oscar, Grouch. It was there was the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Is that yeah, it was probably that. Yeah. That was playing.
That is a lovely memory.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you for sharing it.
Thank you.
Ronny Chieng.
Thanks.
His new special is out right now. It's real funny. You should check it out. Thank you for doing this.
No, thanks for having me. Hope I gave you some non-psychotic answers.
A couple.
No.
A couple. Thank you so much. It was so fun to meet you.
Yeah, great to meet you. Thanks for having me.